Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Royal Ramble podcast on Royal Ramble Radio. That is a mouthful, but I am your host, Zach Stevens, and we are here to talk about the episode of Raw from May 29th, 2017, the go-home show for the pay-per-view Extreme Rules coming up this Sunday. The main question for tonight's show is definitely going to be, did WWE put out a product that is going to get us excited for the pay-per-view that's coming up? That is what I'm thinking about as we're going into this, because for one, Extreme Rules, looking at the card, it doesn't look very promising. And number two, just the build so far has been pretty lackluster. There's a few matches on this card that feel like they got no build. There's a few matches on this card that I am excited for, but I don't feel like the storyline added to it or anything through the day or through the weekly show of Raw has really pushed it to that next level to make me super excited for it. And that's something that I've struggled with the WWE for a while now, is just them not being able to build up a storyline properly and get me excited. So obviously that is going to be the question going into this episode of Raw tonight. So they start out, opening segment, Miz TV. He comes out, he talks about his chance for the Intercontinental title against Ambrose, calling him a lying, cheating thief who stole his title. He said that he went to Kurt Angle, and demanded another match, and the stipulation for this match is if Dean gets disqualified, he will lose his title. Something that I believe Brian Alvarez brought up. He said that there is no other way that this match should end other than Maurice immediately slapping The Miz and thus disqualifying Dean Ambrose from the match, and essentially The Miz would win, because that makes sense. If he gets DQ'd, they've made this stipulation that says if Dean gets DQ'd, then he will be disqualified and he can lose his title on a disqualification. They teased this sort of outcome before, a few weeks ago on Raw, where he was disqualified and The Miz won, but he did it through, Miz-like tactics. So I think that's a very good point. However, I don't believe that they're going to do that. I think they're going to go out there and have a match, and then there'll probably be a DQ at the end, because they're obviously, making this stipulation for a reason. So, but I still believe these two guys are going to have a match. They show a clip of last week, Ambrose losing to the Drifter. Then, officially, the guests for Miz TV come out. It's Cesaro and Sheamus. They have the steel cage match coming up at Extreme Rules against the Hardy Boys. So The Miz is talking about Sheamus and Cesaro, putting them over, saying they're the hardest working guys who deserve a title. Then we start hearing delete chants in the crowd. This crowd was pretty hot right from the get-go. I actually forgot to write down where they were from, but definitely a nice crowd for the most part. And they definitely did something tonight that was absolutely the right thing to do, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it was easily one of the worst segments of all time in WWE history, and that includes the old day. This was horrible. We'll talk about it. Anyway, delete chants erupt. Sheamus says that the WWE Universe loves new toys, and they will break their new toys at Extreme Rules. They specifically mention this word break a few times. I know they're saying they're going to break the toys, but broken Matt Hardy needs to, go against someone that breaks him. So I don't know if they're teasing something there. I know there's a lot of litigation going on around the broken gimmick with TNA and all that stuff, and all those stories kind of erupted last week, but they specifically use the word break a few times throughout this program. So I don't know. Maybe it might be a hint at broken Matt. Maybe not. So The Miz says he's going to bring the Intercontinental title back to glory and make it important after Ambrose has dragged it through the trash bins he calls home. Then, of course, in typical opening segment fashion, Ambrose music hits and interrupts The Miz during his promo. Ambrose comes out. He says he needed someone to come out here and shut their mouths, referring to Miz, Cesaro, and the rest of the gang in the crew, or in the ring. Ambrose says, "Call me crazy, but I ain't stupid." He backs up, and bam, Hardy's music hits. They all enter the ring, and they start brawling. So it's basically saying, look, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to go 1-on-3 here. I brought these guys with me. The Hardys come out and they all battle, and it ends up with Dean and the Hardy Boys in the ring as we head to the next segment. Overall, opening segment, I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm not very excited for any of these matches. I'm a little excited to see Ambrose and The Miz, but, with that whole stipulation and the way they're doing this, like Brian Alvarez said, there's no other way that this match should end other than Miz coming up a very quick way to get disqualified and win the title back. I think that would actually put a lot of heat on it if they actually went with that, but I don't have a lot of faith in them going that route. So when we come back from the commercial, we have an impromptu 3v3 champions versus challengers tag match. We got the Ambrose and we got the Hardys and Miz, Sheamus, and Cesaro. Michael Cole, again, he makes mention of that toy line that I was talking about, and he says they will attempt to break their toys on Sunday, using that word again. Sheamus then starts one of those counting chop moments. He gets, I believe it's Ambrose on the rope, starts beating his chest, and the crowd starts counting. And he eventually says, no, I'm going to stop doing this, and he tags in Cesaro. So instead of, getting that babyface heat or that babyface momentum, he stops in the middle of it and in return gets heat for it. Ambrose gets a hot tag. He ends up taking out everyone. Eventually Ambrose gets taken out, and we head to commercial. When we come back, we hear chants of "You suck," directed at Sheamus. And then eventually Cesaro gets a tag. Ambrose dodges him as he tries to clothesline Ambrose at the turnbuckle. Cesaro goes flying, takes a pretty big bump here. When I saw this initially, I was like, man, that's pretty big. I'm not sure if that was actually supposed to happen or not. Because at this point, Ambrose just kind of stopped moving, and I saw Sheamus' face, and it was kind of like jaw dropped a little bit. This entire match was pretty sloppy, I will have to say. There was a bunch of moves in the match that didn't look good. They were, like I said, they were very sloppy, and this point in particular was also extremely sloppy, because as soon as Cesaro flew out of the ring, what I think was unexpected, to be honest, Sheamus just comes in out of nowhere, tries to attack Ambrose. Ambrose throws him out, and then Ambrose just falls on the ground. He falls on the ground out of nowhere. I guess he's like in so much pain all of a sudden. He just hits the mat in the middle of the ring, and then tries to get the hot tag with the Hardys. But then Miz comes around, and he takes out the Hardys before Ambrose can get the tag. We get some more in-ring action. Then eventually Ambrose is able to get the tag. Jeff Hardy comes in. He just completely wrecks the Miz. Eventually he tags Matt in, gives poetry motion into the side effect. Sheamus breaks the tag. Ambrose comes in and helps, and Jeff hits the Swanton Bomb onto Sheamus and pins them clean again. So this is now, the 5th, 6th time that the Hardys have beaten Cesaro and Sheamus. They haven't gotten a single win yet. I don't know why we're having to watch this match again in this pay-per-view. The build is terrible. I have no reason to believe that Cesaro and Sheamus will win. So that immediately makes me think that they will, because that's typical WWE booking, right? They have someone lose, and then all of a sudden win. Look at Jinder Mahal. He was a jobber until he eventually got this title out of nowhere. But again, I'm just tired of seeing this match, especially because we've had to see these two teams go at it since the last pay-per-view. And before that, basically since WrestleMania. It's the 50,000th time. We're all tired of seeing this match. Let's get them away from each other. This particular match wasn't horrible. Like I said, it was sloppy, but I'm just sick of seeing this pairing of guys. We desperately need this revival and, Enzo and Cass thing to get going. We got to get some new teams in here. We got to spice this up with the Hardys, because even the Hardys' nostalgic luster is starting to wear off at this point. They're still a hot team, don't get me wrong. They just, without the broken gimmick, it's hard to watch the Hardys, especially doing the old gimmick that they used to do. So, we'll see. So then we have a pretty weird segment here. They kick it to Cole and the rest of the commentary table, giving him a headshot. Cole's talking about something, and then Graves pulls out his cell phone, and he's looking at it the entire time. Eventually, then Cole looks at him for, you're going to say something, you need to make some commentary here, and he's focused on his phone, and he looks disturbed, and he says, I'm sorry, and he just gets up and leaves, as if something urgent has occurred, definitely teasing something for later in the episode. And we didn't have to wait long, because after commercial break, the next scene is Graves talking to Kurt Angle, showing him a text or something, whatever was on the phone, and apparently it's something that is talking badly about Kurt, or saying something about Angle specifically says, if this gets out, it can ruin me. And then Corey says, hey, I have your back. I've loved what you've done as Raw GM. Almost putting Graves in sort of a babyface role there, even though he's kind of a heel commentator. But basically saying that he's got Kurt's back. My suspicion at this point was something about Stephanie McMahon making her return to Raw. I think there will be, obviously a power struggle here whenever he comes back. It looks like maybe Stephanie probably isn't going to be happy with the way things have been going under Kurt's regime, and she'll come back. That was my guess. I don't know if this was actually him showing the clip of the revival to him. They didn't really specify this. Watching this only one time, as many people probably did, because there's no fucking way you're gonna watch this shit twice. It was kind of confusing, but either way, I'm not sure if they answered that or not, but we'll find out, I guess. Then we have Elias Sampson, the Drifter, in the ring, singing horribly, as always. The dude cannot sing. I know that's part of his heel gimmick, but, it's just, I don't know. Anyway, he got way less heat this time than he did last week. Last week, he started out a little bit. People were like, oh, okay, new character. And then the crowd turned on him, and they started booing immensely. This time, not much heat at all. Eventually, the lights come up after he's done singing, and he's going to be taking on a jobber named Zach Evans. We get Let's Go Jobber chants, as usual. Samson ends up destroying him in about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Honestly, not really impressive in-ring work. He just kind of gave this guy a beat down. There was one point where he took him by the head and just was bashing it into the ring apron, which is pretty cool. I mean, it shows that Elias is a big, badass dude. But he just gave this guy a straight beat down. It wasn't really in any huge in-ring performance to get people excited about this guy. It's nothing like Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin kind of has that unique in-ring style with some of the moves that he does, like the Deep Six and all that stuff. Elias Sampson really didn't do anything notable. Up next, we have a triple threat between Wyatt, Balor, and Joe. Obviously, we have that 5-man elimination match coming up at Extreme Rules between Reigns, Rollins, Balor, Bray Wyatt, and Samoa Joe. We get a promo from Joe. He says that he's watching Balor's 24 documentary looking for new ways to hurt him rather than watching it and feeling any feelings for it. Wyatt gets a promo. He interrupts Joe, like he always does. He says, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to lose. Blah, 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 blah. I never win. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. No promo for Balor. Balor just gets his music entrance and he comes out. It starts off with all three men. Wyatt exits. He lets Joe and Balor work on each other for a little bit. Eventually, Joe has had enough. He throws Wyatt into the ring himself, and then Balor and Wyatt go at it for a while until Joe comes back into the ring. It was a typical triple threat match. Nothing really too noteworthy here. Balor does seem to really have the crowd behind him, though. There's a lot of times where because if you look at it, they are definitely pushing Finn Balor, with good reason, obviously. They are pushing him, quote unquote, down our throats. They immediately gave him the title. They were going to put the rocket onto this kid and send him to the moon, essentially. Anyway, he's obviously he's deserving of all of that, but it's very hard for WWE to create a solid babyface, and I really felt that he got over a lot in this match too. I mean, if he's getting, let's go Balor chants all the time, that's good for them. That's very good. However, I still think that there's something about Finn Balor that he needs to change. I would like to see him add a few more moves to his arsenal. It's starting to feel like every match I see is a definite copy and paste job. We get the drop kicks, we get the sling blades, we get the coup de grace finisher every single time. And they call him a high flyer, but the only high flying move he does is jump off the top rope. He doesn't do anything except jump on someone. So I'd like to see him do a little bit more in ring. Something that Seth did tonight was really cool. We'll talk about later, but I'd really like to see Balor evolve his offensive game. Anyway, at one point in this match, Wyatt teases Sister Abigail on Finn Balor, but Joe comes from behind Wyatt and locks him into the Coquina Clutch, which is a pretty cool visual element. Balor then attacks Joe to break the hold. We come back from break, and then Balor is getting beat down by Joe as Wyatt watches. We get the Let's Go Balor chants. Joe and Wyatt end up teaming up on Balor, and then eventually Wyatt turns on Joe and turns his eyes to Balor. Eventually, Finn hits a series of sling blades, drop kicks, and stomps to both men. Obviously, that's what I have written in my notes here, and I've already talked about that, but again, that's usually what his offense consists of. He delivers the coup de grace to Wyatt, and then Joe comes into the ring, throws Balor off of Wyatt before the pin, and steals the win from Finn Balor, and Joe wins. I thought it was a pretty good match. Balor, like I said, is definitely over. I like the booking in it. I kind of like that, that tease of Sister Abigail, and then Joe comes up and chokes him out. I thought that was cool. Like I said, I just want Balor to kind of fine-tune his offense a little bit more, get that going a little bit better, and I think he's going to be a huge, huge star. Moving on from that, we got Seth versus Roman in the main event tonight. They start talking about that. Seth has a promo saying that each time him and Roman fight, it's a war because they both want to be the best in the business. Seth says Seth freaking Rollins owns Roman Reigns, and he says that he will change history this week at Extreme Rules. Next up, we have a snoozerweight match. No offense to the cruiserweights, right now, the way that the WWE is booking the cruiserweight matches, especially within Raw, I struggle to get excited about that. I have a lot of thoughts about what they did tonight and what they're going to do at Extreme Rules. Essentially what they did, they showed Rich Swann with Sasha Banks. There was news earlier that there was going to be a mixed tag match between Rich Swann, Sasha Banks versus Noam Dar and Alicia Fox. There's a lot of controversy that they're shoving Sasha into the 205 Live mix. A lot of people would think that's kind of a demotion here. However, I'm going to look at it from a little bit different angle, okay? So like I said, the way that the WWE has kind of been pitching the cruiserweights to us, especially within Raw, is that they're kind of a side act, right? It's almost like it's how they were treating the Divas division. It was the pee break. It was where you go get another beer. It's the match that you skip. I feel like that's how they're handling the cruiserweights, especially on Raw. So I think that, I've heard this from other people as well, but one of the best ways that they could get us interested in that is to kind of have the cruiserweights mix with the regular roster. Maybe we can get Rich Swann versus Seth Rollins. Maybe we could have Noam Dar versus Finn Balor one night. I understand that the problem with that is that you're going to have, it's going to be hard to book that in such a way that both guys look strong, but you don't necessarily have to do that. If we have a Rich Swann versus Seth Rollins match, we drop these purple ropes and we just have an actual match, I think people would get super excited about that because, for one, Rich Swann might be the best in-ring performer in the cruiserweights, okay? He's one of my favorites, easily. His gimmick is a little, I like it, but it's not. We have no there's no empathy for him or anything like that. They tried to do a little bit of storytelling early on, but now he's just kind of the dancing guy, and you don't really want that sort of gimmick attached to you. He's just a super awesome in-ring performer. Anyway, I really think that them mixing, even though this is kind of mixed tag match with Sasha and Alicia Fox, and it's mixing that weird 205 line love story into this, which is fucking awful. No one wants to hear that shit anymore. I like that they're eventually doing that. They're sort of mixing them together, but I think in the end what we need to do is drop the purple ropes, put these guys on a similar level as the main roster, and quit treating them like the side act. But yeah, like I said, I really like how they're mixing the rosters. And we'll see how this goes. Obviously, this is probably going to be a pre-show match unless they really are struggling for time on this pay-per-view. Then they may be, one of the cool-down matches. But either way, I think it's good that they're finally mixing rosters a little bit here. But we'll have to wait and see. The next segment we have is an interview backstage with Dasha and the Revival, and that is the first time that we've seen them since the injury. And Scott points to Dash and says there's a good reason why they have not been on Raw for the past few weeks. And Dash smiles, and he has his mouth wired shut. I forget what injury he had, but I've never seen anyone with their mouth completely shut. He didn't have a single word in this promo. All he did was facial expressions and hand gestures. I don't know what happened to him. Did he get his jaw broken? Do you have to wire your jaw shut for that? That's insane. Anyway, Dasha kicks it to a video segment from last Monday where Sasha Banks is being interviewed about her match with Alicia Fox. And then, however, in the background, they show that you can see the Revival walking in the background. I saw this on Reddit. I thought this was cool. I wasn't even sure if it was actually them. I only watched the clip once. But I think it was a really cool storytelling element for them to kind of hint and tease like a little clue that, hey, these are the guys that actually beat up Enzo, and we're going to throw them in this meaningless, we're just going to have them walk by in this meaningless interview. I think that's a cool way to kind of hint at something and tease something, and it's not something that the WWE does a lot, so props to them for actually doing some sort of cool storytelling here. So, it's what makes me actually more excited for this match. Now I kind of want to see if the Revival are the ones that doing it, are the ones that are attacking Enzo, or is it someone else? So, like I said, that's good storytelling, right? Well, speaking of good storytelling elements, they go back to the commentary booth again. And Corey ends up making this weird remark about how Enzo has definitely, he says how Big Cass has definitely seen the footage of the Revival walking backstage. He's somehow insinuating that Big Cass had something to do with it. They end up showing some highlights of Kendrick and Akira Tozawa from 205 last week in their street match. I definitely didn't watch that shit. And then, however, Corey, when he's doing, the voiceover for it, doing the commentary on the highlight package, he gets interrupted. And all of a sudden they kick it over there, and it's Big Cass towering over Corey Graves. And you see Corey's kind of like quivering, and he's a little bit scared. And Big Cass says, well, what exactly did you mean by that? Referring to the line that he had originally, insinuating that Big Cass actually, saw this, or maybe he had something to do with this attack on Enzo. Corey is kind of like, well, man, I'm on your side. He says Kurt is investigating it. Obviously, Big Cass calms down and ends it with a handshake as Corey is left looking relieved and worried. Overall, I think they're putting a lot of time and effort into this storyline that probably doesn't necessarily need it, but I think it's cool what they're doing. It's making me more interested in this match, and I want to find out, hey, is this the time where Big Cass is going to turn? I don't think it is, but it's a cool way to get some heat on the Revival and get them back into things and get things exciting again. Now, right here, at this point when I'm watching Raw, this is where I start thinking, okay, this show is going on so fucking long now. I'm starting to lose interest. That, right there, that was kind of the peak moment for me with the Revival and all this stuff and kind of advancing that storyline a bit. Then we get a Kalisto match. And obviously, they have to remind us, because no one remembers this, that Kalisto and Apollo Crews are kind of in a feud right now with the whole Titus brand and all that shit. But instead of it being like last week where we had Apollo versus Kalisto, we had Titus O'Neil versus Kalisto. This match was horrible. It was super sloppy. There's no reason for me to be going over this at all. He ends up winning by like sitting on Kalisto. This match ended incredibly quickly. Obviously, Kalisto looks very good in ring. But Titus ends up grabbing the tights, and like I said, he just sits on him and gets the 3 count and wins in about a minute. I have no interest in any of this stuff right now, and I mean, I like Apollo Crews in ring. I like Kalisto in ring. Hell, I'm not even opposed to seeing Titus O'Neil in sort of a heel role. I'm not behind the storyline, and this show is too long and too boring to have this. So let's talk about this now. Like I said, this is where in the show it starts to go downhill. Because next up we have Alexa Bliss presents Bayley, This Is Your Life. This right here was easily the worst segment I've seen since the old day. The old day was when they brought out an old version of the New Day. And it was so cringy and horrible, I thought they could never top that. But again, WWE Creative finds a way to do it. So, Alexa Bliss comes out. Look, I love Alexa Bliss. I think she is awesome. She was easily the best thing about this promo because she was able to do it, and she's good on the mic, okay? However, what they gave to her and what they had her do was absolutely cringe-worthy. This was horrible, guys. So, they have Alexa out there. She's standing in the middle of the ring. There's a table with trophies and yearbooks and photos. And she comes out there and she starts talking about Bayley's yearbook from back in the day. Starts talking about this trophy that she got for best sportsmanship. Then, on the side of each table, there's a woman and a guy and an older woman. First, Alexa Bliss goes to interview this old woman, and it turns out it's Bayley's 4th grade teacher. And on the other side, that ends up being her ex-best friend and her ex-boyfriend. This was very cringy. This was horrible. They remind us that there's going to be a kendo stick on a pole match, which is, what the fuck? I don't even understand that. Anyway, this was absolutely horrible. We get the crowd chanting, "This is boring." Everyone's saying, "Delete, delete, delete." Yes, please, delete this shit from my fucking television, please. This was just horrible. This is the type of stuff that makes me embarrassed to watch as a wrestling fan. For one, I understand that it's a PG audience, but I think even children watching this would understand that this is cringe-inducing. This is horrible. I cannot even come up with words with how bad this was. Alexa obviously getting the what chance. Even she struggled a little bit in this, but you just have to imagine how horrible the writing would have to be for them to come up with this idea. This was absolutely just trash, and I don't ever want to see this shit ever again. It ends with Bayley coming out, beating up on Alexa, then Alexa hits her with a kendo stick, and who cares? Who gives a fuck? It was so fucking bad. So bad. So after the commercial, it comes to Enzo. Enzo has been attacked again. Kurt Angle says he saw the Revival leave, and it couldn't be them. Big Cass tells Angle that doesn't mean that they didn't beat him up. So Enzo continues to get attacked, and they keep evolving this storyline. And I think it's, coming to be a pretty good build here. I like where they're going with it, and this is one of the only things that I really cared about. Anyway, we get another snoozerweight match. One we've seen a jillion times before. We got TJP and Neville versus Gallagher and Aries. I'm tired of seeing this. This is getting into Sheamus, Cesaro, Hardy Boys territory for me. We've seen this collection of guys. We've seen these two tag teams go at it way too many times. I don't want to see it anymore. Neville ends up losing by submission for the first time. Obviously, Aries is challenging him this Sunday, so maybe they will do the title change, maybe they won't. Neville's obviously awesome with the belt right now. I love where Neville is at. Neville's, one of the most redeeming qualities about 205 Live in the Cruiserweight division, but I'm just tired of seeing these, meaningless Cruiserweight matches on Raw. In what's already a long-ass show, it just makes it feel even longer. We kick it to a Gold Dust promo. We get the 24 karat promo. Then R-Truth right after that has one just like that, and it's an R-Truth promo, and it says it's from What's Up Media, and he sits in a chair much like Goldust does with his promos, and he talks about how certain movies have inspired him. He's using movie quotes and just basically saying that Goldust is going to get got. And we have no match tonight, like I said, just promos, but I'm a little bit interested to see where this goes. I like how they're turning Goldust back to his former heel self, really going back to his older gimmicks and stuff. I don't want this to be a super long feud. I think him and R-Truth should just battle it out and get it done with. But, I'm interested to see the match when it does occur. And then finally, in the last hour of Raw, we finally get to our main event. It felt like a super drag from that, like I said, from those teases of the Revival and Enzo and Cass. Going from that last hour of Raw was just fucking horrible. And that Alexa Bliss Bayley segment was one of the worst of all time. We finally get Rollins versus Reigns. Obviously, this is a matchup we've seen 100 times before. Seth comes out and says, like he said he owns he said he owns Reigns, and then Roman apparently said to someone that no one owns me. We start the match with Roman sucks chants. The match starts out pretty slow, both guys kind of feeling each other out. Rollins delivers a beautiful standing moonsault, and I wrote a little note here saying this is what I want to see out of Balor. Just add a few moves in every once in a while. It doesn't have to be the same 4 or 5 moves all the time. Change it up a little bit differently. He needs to throw in a little thing like a standing moonsault or just something new. Get us something going. It's something that Seth did very well tonight. He busted out a bunch of moves that we don't normally see Seth Rollins do, and that got me more excited for this match. When you see something that you don't see very often, you go, whoa, and it gets you more engaged with the product, and that's what I want to see Balor do. I know he's still young, he's still going through, recovering from surgery and all that stuff, but just eventually start adding some more stuff in. That's all. Anyway, we come back from commercial. Roman is in control. He's throwing Seth into the barricade. And it should be noted here that Roman did not have any more bandages from the Braun attack. He was at max HP here. He had max shields. He was fully armored up. No more injury for him. So, Roman is also... I thought he was wrestling this match kind of as a pure heel, and obviously he was a heel tonight. There was massive boos for Roman, as always, and he just had this look on his face that was like, I'm a heel and I'm going to kick your ass, Seth, and that was good. There was one point where he was laughing at Seth for being hurt, I think. It was just really cool. It's cool to see that when Roman really embraces that heel mentality. He starts attacking Seth viciously and with intensity. Roman has his offense going, giving Seth a drive-by on the ring apron, sending him into the post. Then eventually Seth gets back in control and tries to deliver a knee off the top rope, and Roman, in typical Roman fashion, hits him with a super punch mid-air, which is like, oh god, of course, we all saw that coming. Seth ends up kicking out of the Superman punch. Roman goes for a spear, but Seth dodges it, rolls him up for a quick 2 count, and at this point, I'm thinking, well, yeah, this is a pretty decent match. Thank God they gave us something after making us sit through that last hour of fucking bullshit. So, anyway, we get a cool spot where Seth throws Roman into the post off his shoulders, and Roman bounces back and hits Seth with a Superman punch. Both men hit the ground, and the crowd erupts in cheers. They both go outside of the ring, then Seth throws Roman into the steps. Seth hits a blockbuster to Reigns, another move that we don't see very often out of Seth, and then Roman kicks out in 2. Then, after the blockbuster, Seth goes for a frog splash after he sees that it didn't work. He hits the frog splash, and then he goes for another count. Roman kicks out in 2. Then Seth goes for a beautiful, beautiful Phoenix splash. Roman gets out of the way. Seth goes for his new finisher, which I'm not sure what they're calling that. Is that the Kingslayer? I don't know. Anyway, he misses the knee. Roman turns around, hits a spear. 1, 2, 3. Roman wins. So I guess Seth doesn't actually own Roman Reigns at all. Vince McMahon definitely made sure of that. So yeah, I thought it was a really good main event match. Like I said, we've seen these guys go at it countless times, so it was very cool to see them, spice it up in a way, especially Seth with throwing in some new moves here to get us more excited, get us more engaged. I like when Roman embraces that heel mentality, especially in ring, and I thought that it was, a decent way to kind of build up that 5-way match coming up at Extreme Rules a little bit. And that pretty much was Raw. So like I said at the beginning of the episode, the question of this Raw was that, did it do anything to build up the matches at Extreme Rules? This was the go-home show, and I have to say that I don't really think that it did. I think when they initially announced the 5-way match, I was already at max interest because I want to know who's going to face Brock Lesnar. So I don't think that they had really had to do anything to get me interested in that, but the rest of the matches, I'm not excited to see at all. I don't care about Bayley and fucking Alexa Bliss. I don't give a shit about seeing Sheamus and Cesaro go against the Hardy Boys for the 1000th time. This mixed tag match, whether it's on the pre-show or the main show, is going to be garbage. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to go over the matches for Extreme Rules, so I'll talk about them in a second. But like I said, the main goal of this episode was to build towards Extreme Rules. And, overall, most of the matches I'm not very excited for. So, yeah, I mean, especially the Hardy Boys and Cesaro and Sheamus, that's one of the big ones on the card here, right? And we've seen it so many times, I can't stand to watch this combination of guys any longer. Anyway, let's go over the matches for Extreme Rules. Let's get a few predictions here, and that will be the podcast. We have, like I said, the mixed tag team match with Rich Swann, Sasha Banks versus Noam Dar and Alicia Fox. Not excited for this match at all. I'm going to go with Rich Swann and Sasha Banks. Hopefully they don't have Sasha get pinned by Alicia again. But yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Let's see. We got Dean Ambrose versus The Miz. I am excited to see what they do in this match. Based off the card that I have here, it does not look like they're going to do that quick DQ finish because they won't have enough time to fill up a 3-hour pay-per-view unless they have a match. But I will be interested to see if they do that. Like I said, the stipulation for this is that if Ambrose is disqualified, he will lose his title. So we'll see what The Miz can come up with, and we'll see what happens here. We have Alexa Bliss versus Bayley, obviously for the Raw Women's Championship. That This Is Your Life segment just completely sucked any energy out of that. It's going to be a kendo stick on a pole match. No one gives a shit. I'm going to say that Alexa Bliss wins and retains her title, because I think that's what should happen. Bayley is kind of a dead character right now. They really need to go back to the drawing board with her and stop, putting her as this, 12-year-old girl character. It needs to stop immediately. Then we have the Hardy Boys versus Cesaro and Sheamus, the Raw Tag Team Championship match. Matt Hardy has he obviously won that chance to pick the stipulation, and they picked the steel cage match. So, like I said, I'm not interested to see this match at all. We've seen it 1,000 times, and I think the Hardy Boys are going to retain. Neville versus Austin Aries for the Cruiserweight Championship. I thought it was interesting how they had Neville tap tonight. However, I don't think it's time to give the belt to Aries. I think Neville looks better with it, and I think they need to find a new way or a new challenger for him, because it is also in that Cesaro, Sheamus, Hardy Boys level of repetition here. We've seen it too many times, and this needs to either be the final time it happens, or you just need to give the belt to Aries, and let's go from there. And then finally, the match that I'm actually excited for and want to see at Extreme Rules this Sunday will be the Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, Finn Balor, Samoa Joe Fatal 5-Way. They obviously need to find that top contender for the Universal title to go against Brock Lesnar. Finally, we have not seen the Universal title since forever. It's time to get it back on TV and get some excitement going. As far as who I think is going to win this match, I don't think Bray Wyatt is going to win. Obviously, that Finn Balor segment 2 weeks ago on Raw with Paul Heyman really putting him over got me very interested in seeing a Finn Balor-Brock Lesnar match. I don't think that's going to happen either, though. Roman Reigns, I think he's still going to be battling with Braun. I know Braun is going to be back here pretty soon. I don't think they're going to do the Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar quite yet. I think the idea for that is to save it for WrestleMania. Samoa Joe, Brock Lesnar, man, I would love to see that match. Obviously, it's going to be a little weird having sort of two heels going at it, even though Brock is kind of, in the middle there. Depends on who he's going against. But my pick for the win is actually going to be Seth Rollins, guys. I think Seth is going to get his shot. I think the Brock Lesnar-Seth Rollins match will be something that will be interesting to see. He definitely deserves a shot at the title. He deserves a shot with Brock Lesnar. The question is, will he actually take the title from Brock? I don't think so, but obviously we have a little bit of time before that even happens. So my prediction is that Seth Rollins will win this match. So yeah, man, that is the predictions for Extreme Rules. That is our review of Raw. I really appreciate anyone that checked this out. Bear with us as we work through the kinks, kind of find our groove here, find our voices, and tell your friends about it, man. Try and get some more people to listen, and we'll build up a nice community here at the Royal Ramble Radio. So yeah, that's been the Royal Ramble podcast here. I appreciate you listening. I'm your host, Zach Stevens, and we are out.